I'll go ahead and get us kicked off for a couple minutes after 11, and I'm conscious of everyone's time. Although doing these Zoom meetings is definitely helpful these days, and jam packing as much as we can, not having to travel from place to place. So that's always nice. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jody Lincoln Hoker. I am with Anchor Down Property Management, and I am the current president of our Sarasota Manatee chapter. As you know, you're here today for Bryan Jenkins, the 10 KPIs to help you know and grow your PM business. So welcome to you. Thank you for joining. So for those of you that don't know, the purpose of NARPM, the mission is NARPM provides resources for residential property management professionals who desire to learn, grow, and build relationships. And the vision of NARPM is that they will be the recognized leaders in residential property management. Before we go any further, if I could just ask everyone to mute if you're not speaking or asking a question, just because we're getting a lot of feedback. Awesome. Okay, so as far as board introductions go, I see that we have Jill. If you want to wave and say hi, Jill. Jill is our current secretary. We have John Rutherford. He is our affiliate chair. John, if you want to wave and say hi.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. I see Matt Johnston just jumped on. He is our membership co-chair. Hi, Matt.
Hey, guys.
Okay, awesome. So code of ethics. Today, I have asked Jill if she could read the code of ethics for us. Jill? Maybe you didn't see that. Sorry.
I didn't hear you. And I don't have it. I am sorry.
Okay, all right. I will take over. I won't put you. I tried to pre-warn you, but I clearly still put you on the spot. I'm sorry. I'll read it. Okay, so code of ethics for NARPM. It's the policy of the NARPM to comply fully with all antitrust laws. The antitrust laws prohibit, among other things, any joint conduct among competitors that could lessen competition in the marketplace. NARPM membership is composed of competitors. They must refrain from discussing competitively sensitive topics, including those related to pricing, such as rates, fees, or costs, individual competitors or specific business transactions, or controlling or allocating markets. NARPM shall not restrict members' ability to solicit competitors' clients. NARPM shall not restrict members' ability to advertise for business, provided the advertising is not false, deceptive, or otherwise illegal. All right, so on to our sponsor introductions. John, hopefully you saw my email yesterday about doing sponsor introductions for us as the affiliate chair. And don't forget to unmute.
Definitely, I saw that yesterday. Thank you very much, Jody. So welcome everyone. I'm glad you were able to make it. I've got Shannon Hurlman now, her newly blessed married name. Shannon, congratulations. She is one of our gold sponsors representing Second Nature, and she's happy to be with us, I'm sure. Shannon, would you like to say a little something about Second Nature to the group?
Sure. Thanks, John. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone on this call is super familiar with Second Nature. So as y'all know, we used to be just the filter company, and we are no longer just the filter company. We are now the RBP company. So I know, Bryan, you mentioned RBP at Broker Owner, and I'm excited to see you and Phil there. Yay for in-person conferences coming back. RBP is a really great way to differentiate yourself from a standard for rent by owner or an accidental landlord. It can also help you add anywhere from $100 to $120 a door annually in bottom line revenue. And then Second Nature, we've come out with a new fully managed program where we design, deploy, and manage it for you guys. So I see we have some current clients on the call, but if you would like some more information, I can put my contact info in the chat. And happy St. Patrick's Day.
Shannon, I just want to say, love the green.
For sure.
I get one day a year to wear it unless it's like Halloween and I've decided to dress up as an alien. So I was like, you know what? go for it.
Go for it.
Very good. Thank you very much, Shannon. I appreciate that. Our platinum sponsors today are Floors for Pros. You can reach out to them if you need to. They're a flooring installation and sales company. We also have another platinum sponsor is Heiss, Weist, and Woke. Everyone knows Harry. If you need Harry, you can go ahead and get a hold of his services. He's the attorney that takes care of all the landlord tenant laws and leases and evictions and everything for the NARPM for several NARPM chapters. And then of course ourselves, Lightning Restoration of Sarasota, another platinum sponsor for the NARPM chapter. We deal with water damage, mold damage, water damage, remediation, restoration, fire damage, smoke damage, any kind of damage you've got in your home. Give us a call. We'll come out and take a look at it, see what needs to be done, and get you back in running order as soon as possible. And that comes with any of your rental properties, as much as most of our property managers that are here have used Lightning Restoration. You understand that we can pretty much respond to you within an hour or two and be on site and get that thing dried out as quickly as possible. Other than that, we've got another gold sponsor who is not able to attend with us, and that's Ties 360. They deal with mold and duct work. They also basically do mold certified duct cleaning, called a NATCA certified duct cleaning, which is what you guys have probably heard me talk about a lot. Give them a call if you need anything. We also have Service Master SRQ, another water damage restoration company based out of Sarasota. Chris has been pretty busy up in Panama City. I think he's opening a new office up there, trying to handle some of the new damages that happened from the recent storms. We also have Storm Roofing, a roofing contractor that's here locally, owned and operated by family, and great roofing repair company. If you ever need them, give them a call. And then finally, last but not least, our silver sponsor is Total Coatings, and they are a bathtub and tile shower refinishing company. They do glazing on tubs. They can fix tub cracks, chips, scratches, things like that to make your bathtubs look brand new again. And that's all I have, Jody, if you want to take over from now.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Okay, so, and John, correct me if I'm wrong. I just want to make sure everyone kind of hangs around to the end because I think we have some raffles. Is that right? A drawing at the end?
Yeah, I believe myself and Shannon both have raffles. And
Awesome.
You'll have to forgive
Cool.
me. I'm on puppy duty today, so I'm not distracted. It's just that the dog's getting into something. So, but yes, we do have gift card giveaways. And I believe, Jody, you have the random virtual gift card drawing thing for all the attendees. Good
I
to
got
go.
the wheel ready to go. Virtual
Yes,
wheels ready
the
to go.
wheel.
All right,
Pictures of the
awesome.
puppies.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
Ugh,
I was going to
he's
say that
big.
he needs to lift up the puppy so we can see.
He's doubled in
cute.
size in the last 2 weeks.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thanks, John. All right, on to the main event. So today we have Bryan Jenkins. He is MPM RMP, is the principal broker of AHI Properties, which has offices in Birmingham, Huntsville, Mobile, Montgomery, Alabama, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He obtained his Alabama real estate license in 2005, his Alabama broker's license in 2007, and his Georgia broker's license in 2017. He has been a NARPM member since 2011 and holds his MPM and RMP designations. Bryan is currently serving as the NARPM Southeast Region Vice President and has previously served as the NARPM National Member Services Committee Chairperson and is a past president of the Atlanta NARPM chapter. He is also a veteran of both the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Army. Bryan, thank you so much for being here today, and I'm happy to welcome you to our chapter, and over to you.
Well, thank you very much. And as always, I appreciate the kind introduction. And Jody, appreciate working with you as a chapter president and your team. And, you know, I think the most valuable piece of information about me that she just rattled off was the presidency of the NARPM Atlanta chapter. And really, you know, my story dates back to a decade of property management without NARPM. and then life since introduction to NARPM. So my business has radically changed over the last 11 years as a result of that, or 10 years, excuse me, for the better. And I don't get nearly as many headaches as I used to. So from beating my head against the same wall for the same problems. But that is just a great chapter. Gives me some insight to how you guys function. And I appreciate that now, especially as the Southeast RVP. So fun topic. And I love the topic because I practice what I preach. As some of you were not privy to the conversation beforehand, but I am in a hotel room. I'm traveling in one of my markets right now with some foreign investors that came in to our marketplace on Monday, and we met them in the Birmingham marketplace, and then we all came down to Mobile, which is about 250 miles south of Birmingham, and exploring the market. And they've raised a lot of money to deploy. And what I'm going to talk about today has been something that helped me land clients like the one that I'm working with now that have the capability of raising millions of dollars per month to deploy in real estate investments. And part of that interesting dynamic with this particular client is they do a lot of build to rent stuff. So that's kind of excited. And as a property manager, having new inventory, new construction inventory is super exciting because in our marketplaces, we didn't have any of that post 07, 08 and the fallout that was associated with that. So it's really nice to have that inventory. And then kind of what we'll talk about managing metrics today. Part of that is watching that inventory go rather quickly because our markets are hot, just like most people's are right now, just based on the current climate. I'd like to kick things off with a couple of questions, and relevant to today. Some of you are not property managers, and these questions are somewhat relevant to you, but we're going to be talking specifically about property management and managing metrics, business metrics for the property management firm today. So the first question I'd like to ask everybody, and I would encourage you to put your responses in the chat. What are 3 business-related metrics that you're currently tracking every month? It can be anything. I'd like to poll everybody just to kind of get an idea of anybody's watching their business metrics, tracking percentages, tracking losses, gains, that sort of thing, and to figure out what those are. So if you would put your responses, and it doesn't have to be 3. If you have a big number one or you like to list a couple, you're welcome to do that.
I'll keep an eye on this, Brian, and let you know if.
Thank you.
All right, what do we got? All right, so we have customer survey results coming in. Profit, days to rent empty unit, number of units under management, average days on market, number of doors, vacancy rate, how long probate files are taking to go through courts, renewal rate, churn, customer service surveys, total count, average rent, RBP, income, another customer survey results, income/door, income per door, profit per door.
Very good. All right, so you guys are doing a lot of things right already. So the second question I'd like to ask everybody: what is your and this is and again, it can be specific to property manager or just business in general. What is your biggest pain point in your relationship with your clients? What's the number one complaint or point of friction that you get from your clients coming back to you as either an operator or a firm owner?
here we go. When a client landlord contacts the tenants directly, we dump the landlord immediately. Costs at turnover. I second Jill's cost at turnover. And a communication obviously is, can be a complaint. You guys have any more you want to throw in there?
All right, so I would say, in echoing, I know the largest thing for us personally is communication. And long ago, it used to be setting the correct expectations with your clients. Was that Firewall? I saw Firewall something.
Condo and HOA teams.
So gotta love HOA sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of tee this up before I pull up my PowerPoint presentation. So what really got me focused on this was, I believe it was 8 years ago. I'm trying to remember the first time since I joined in 2011, we went to San Diego, and as a national convention, we were in La Jolla, if anybody was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the closing speaker, if my memory serves well, closing speaker was a lady by the name of Ivy Zellman, and she has a company called Zellman and Associates. And Zellman and Associates does all sorts of reporting for major industry players, anything and all things related to real estate, construction, relocation, housing in general, whether it be owner-occupant, investor-owned properties, leasing. And what she presented that day just kind of blew my mind. I knew it was important. I knew I wanted to be part of it. Wasn't there professionally yet. Didn't fully understand the importance of it or how I might use it in my business, and use it in my business in such a way that that I could weather storms, diversify the makeup of my management portfolio, and ultimately grow my business and profit. And so I did sign up for it, and the offer that she put forth to all the NARPA members that day, which I'm going to share this little nugget with you at the end of this presentation. So, and the offer still stands with them, but the offer she made that day was, if you will agree to take part in their survey each month, answer 22 to 25 questions regarding your firm and the metrics that we'll go through today, they will present you with full access to all their reporting, and you can choose what you want to view, keep, etc. It's very much an exclusive piece of information that they charge clients a lot of money to obtain, and we've used it to really just have some explosive growth over the years, to land relationships like what I'm taking part in right now by traveling. And really, I can't say enough good things about it. So what happened to me over the years as we evolved and grew and opened additional branches is then being able to take this same survey that we'll go through today, really pushing it out to my branch managers and having my branch managers understand the importance of how this survey and the metrics contained within this survey can help them understand their individualized markets. And then me as a business owner also understand my complete business with 5 different marketplaces, pouring information in and giving me an overall view of how my company is doing as a whole. So both individually and company as a whole. And it's a wonderful, wonderful setup. I have developed over the years to where we actually do a monthly mastermind with all my branch managers and my key managers within my corporate office. And we use these to discuss and create some friendly competition amongst my branch managers, their leasing staff, even all the way down to my maintenance coordinator. So addressing some of those pain points, we talked about cost of property turns, speed at which you're doing those. And all these things become important as you're being intentional. And what I mean by being intentional is, for a decade, I managed for accidental landlords. And then I realized, particularly after 07 and 08 and the fallout following that, and an increase, even more recently, an increase in the sales market where everything's hot and you have an accidental landlord that wants to pull their property, sell it, because they're really not in the landlord business. They're not professional or intentional investors. They are an investor by default. So I knew following 07, 08 and everything that took place there and surviving that as a business and really coming out on the other side of it, sustaining it and then growing ultimately. But my partner and I made a decision. We want to diversify our management portfolio. And by doing so, we wanted to go from an exclusively an A, B class property management company in to include C class assets. And with C class assets, because the returns were there for the investors, that's the first point of focus that they're focused on coming into a market and really opening up the opportunity to deal with not only large investors, which we'll talk some about, but also small investors that are intentional, that are buying their first or second, third, fourth, fifth property, et cetera. And you're helping them become an investor and educating them in the process. So we're going to dive right into it. And please feel free, I'll say this before I get started, feel free if you have any questions along the way, if you guys will just hit it up in the chat and Jody will help me monitor that. Just let me know if you need me to clarify anything, stop, talk about anything in greater depth.
I don't want to watch it all, look at all these people.
All right. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. Here we go. Bear with me for a second because I'm viewing a screen that's all right. Everybody see my PowerPoint? Okay. All right. So as we go through, we're gonna talk about a lot of different features. And again, this is all focused on the Zelman report as a foundation for every metric we'll talk about today. I mentioned that there are typically 22 to 25 questions they're asking. And the other nice thing I like about this report is that at the end of it, they always ask you how they can improve it, areas you'd like for them to focus on. And not that they might do everything that you suggest, but it's kind of those forums to where if they get enough interest in something, they certainly make a step in that direction. Right here. All right. So we're going to cover. We're going to talk about. This came up in the question. A lot of folks are monitoring the total number of doors you have under management. It's important as a manager and a business owner to know that from a month to month perspective. Breakdown of homes under management by classification, and this is something that I use operationally. I use AppFolio as my management software. So using AppFolio with it being property based versus portfolio based and creating property groups, this is a way for me to pull reporting and understand. For instance, if I'm looking at a metric of how much I'm spending on turn cost for C-class assets, and I want to compare that against B or A-class assets, just one example of many we can use that for. We're a big enough company. I have a business development manager that is based in my Birmingham office, and he's actually out in the field with our clients right now, trying to drum up new business here. So we're going to take a look at the total number of homes added last month. Total number of homes lost last month, which is just as important, if not more important, in my mind as a business owner. Another thing we're going to talk about, I think somebody put this in the chat earlier, average days on market for homes being advertised for rent, total number of applications you process in any given month, number of leases expiring last month. I've got a finance component that dives into some of those dynamics for you. Total number of work orders created last month. Average fees earned by property management firm per door managed. And I'd like to look at that year to date. So we always like to understand exactly the number of homes we have under management. So the number of homes profitable, if you're like most management companies, the ones that are making you money are the ones that are renting. The vacant ones, they're not necessarily. If you have a maintenance company, or if you're charging an additional fee on top of your maintenance, your term maintenance being done, invoices coming in, if you're charging project management fees, depends on really how robust your company is. So the three metrics they will track within this report is the total number of homes you have under management. And then with that, out of that total number of homes you have leased. They're going to track the number of homes you currently have vacant and are being marketed. And then you're going to track the number of homes in turn rehab status. So it's important you understand kind of the dynamic. If you're looking at this number month in and month out, it gives you a lot of insight as to ultimately combining with other metrics about how many people you've got moving out, how often you're turning properties, what those turn timelines look like, so you can actually zero in on getting those minimized and houses in the market more quickly. And then once you get a house in the market, how many days on market are you averaging? This is a breakdown of management by classification for us, something we came up with. We structured it per our Birmingham market location, and we're in secondary markets. And what I mean by that is we're not in the Atlanta, we're not in the Houston's. Our largest marketplaces are Birmingham and Oklahoma City, which are very similar in size. OKC has a metro area of 1.125 million, which is very similar to Birmingham. But we want to focus in on that. And we classified A class as $1,500 a month and up. And I've got rentals basically going from, we're going to call it $650 a month all the way up to $4,500 plus per month in my marketplaces. Our B class assets, we classified as $1,100 to basically $1,500 per month. And then our C class assets, which is the classification that we decided to include to allow us survivability as a business, as a property management firm, diversification within our existing portfolio. So we could weather those storms. And then what we found, even though the C class is more work, and I think anybody managing C class will echo what I'm saying, there's more work involved in the C class asset, but there's also more maintenance involved in the C class asset. So if you can figure out a way to capitalize your maintenance rate, whether that is by your own internalizing your maintenance company or being able to upcharge those, you create a profit center there that's well worth managing the C class asset and all the headaches that come with that. So the total number of homes, this is one of my my go-to metrics for my business development manager. And it really kind of alludes to what we're doing in the makeup of who we have in our existing inventory. I spoke early on about accidental landlords, and I'm quite sure all the property managers on here understand exactly what that term means. And those discussions are often painful. They're often associated with emotional attachments to properties that they've resided in, raised their kids in, have height marks marked on the door frames, as opposed to the intentional investor or institutional investors that are buying a property specifically for investment. So to them, they have no emotional attachment other than their money, and they're buying it sheerly as an investment. I'm also looking at, as far as my BDM, I'm looking at the total number of leads versus closing ratios. And these are things that I've established check and balance systems with my BDM. So I'm seeing the same material, the same lead generation, everything coming in by choice. I'm actually categorizing those, dropping those in where they need to be so I can go back and reference those later, basically to back up the information being reported to me by the BDM and the number of leads coming in against the closing ratio. I'm also looking at growing in individual investors, or what I like to term as intentional investors. And I have a number of those that I've worked with over the last 20 years in our portfolio that have come to us, started as a renter. They've then bought their first property, moved out of that property, turned it over to us because of their experience with us, as a tenant, and then seeing how we reacted and interacted with them, took care of maintenance issues, et cetera. And then from that, had a good experience, bought the next intentional investment property, turned it over to us. And now they might have 5 or 10 or more. And that's, to me, that's the highest form of compliment from when one of your clients starts doing that and trusting you with those assets for basically for the legacy, the generation of wealth that they can utilize and pass on. And with your total number of leads coming in, where are those leads coming from? Are you spending your money wisely? So often, we get so busy in this business, it's hard to, for years, it's like, okay, where's the bulk of our leads coming from? And understanding where those are coming from so you can spend your money wisely and most efficiently and get the most bang for your buck. If you're losing homes, why are you losing homes? What are you losing those to? They typically are very telltale signs of what's going on. I like to track a lot of national metrics as well as local metrics and market micro markets metrics. And one of those I like to look at, and I've heard very consistently, pretty much every property manager I know within our profession right now is experiencing an increase in homes that are actually being lost to this first category, which the owner is pulling it to list it for sale. So in doing that, you ask yourself and how you're structured. Are you equipped to handle the brokerage side of things, not just the management side, but is it possible for you to look at bringing in an outside sales agent? Do you have enough volume to do that? Not only for the accidental landlord, but then can you turn it around and do something like what we've done, where we focus on dealing only with investor clients? I'll do a retail sale, but it's got to be investor owned to start with, to where we're intentionally taking investor owned property and turning it out to a retail resale. But more often than not, what we're doing is helping investors acquire property and then on occasion sell that property to other investors to help build their portfolio. But again, it's just, what are you capable of doing? What do you want to do? Is it worth the risk? Is it worth adding additional team members to your existing team? This is sometimes bigger in some marketplaces than others, to where you have, again, it's an accidental landlord scenario, but I reference back to our Huntsville marketplace, where we have a military presence, and everyone that, for the most part, that serves in Huntsville, particularly officer level, they like to come back and retire in Huntsville for whatever reason. So a lot of times we'll manage their house for the duration or the remainder of their military careers, and then they'll be coming back into that home. So back to Jody's point, and I think it was, I'm trying to remember who else commented on this, but cost of turns and making sure we're doing the right thing, using our partners, like Phil's on here, using like an on-site pros partnership to go into that property and understand the importance of monitoring that property's condition for your owner, and then more importantly, reporting that back to your owner and letting them understand the value of our services to them, and the fact that there are several pieces we've constructed over the years to help with that, to motivate tenants to take better care of the property. And we do it in the form of how we handle our lease renewals, and the system we devised and created a spreadsheet, basically formulation, to rate that tenant on certain performance metrics and how well they're taking care of the property. And periodic and walkthroughs and lease renewal walkthroughs are certainly part of that process. This is one that's troubling. So as a property manager, because if you lose a home to an owner selecting another property manager, I'm an ex-military guy. I like to do after action reviews. I like to understand, why did we lose this business? Was it our decision? Was it the owner deciding that, unfortunately, for whatever reason, they were not a good fit for us and they chose to go elsewhere? So that one I really drill in on. I want to understand exactly what happened there and ensure I communicate that with my team so we don't have that happen again. Average days on market for homes being advertised for rent. Everybody kind of has a feel for this. I think for the first 10 years, I think I gauged my average days on market, not understanding metrics and the importance of it. I think I gauged everything against a 30-day calendar, and how, honestly, in my presentations to my owners back then, I used to do those, and I would say we would target to lease your home in 30 days or less. And typically we were either 25 to 30 to 35 days if the property was priced correctly. But that was kind of a benchmark. But now I know exactly that, last month, company-wide, between all 5 offices, we averaged 21 days on market. So I know exactly how that ebbs and flows month in and month out. Average number of days to perform a make ready. One of the things that I have taken this particular metric, and this particular metric actually came into play because I was asked, and have been asked multiple times in speaking with institutional investors specifically, how long does it take you to turn a property? How quickly can you get my property to market ready? And then once it's market ready, how quickly you're going to lease it? Those are the interview questions that if you're sitting down with an institutional investor or an intentional investor that knows how to invest, those are the type of questions that they're going to ask. And many of the questions that are in this survey, it really behooves you to know this information as top of mind. Just like I spouted off exactly how many days on market. I know that on average, this particular metric takes us 24 days currently to make a property ready for turn. And that factors in, that's across my portfolio. So that factors in my C-class assets, will have higher turn cost and more work to do, up against my A-class assets, which may only require a carpet cleaning and a professional cleaning. And that's pretty much it. So balancing those out, that is our average. And I am very systematic in how I approach this with my coordinators and my branch managers to ensure that we are keeping our turns at all costs under 30 days or less. I would really like to get 21 days or less, and that does ebb and flow a bit. But last month we were averaging 24 days to complete a turn. But when you're talking to an investor and you have that information readily available to you, to where you understand it and you can speak confidently of it, or any of the metrics that we're talking about, it goes a long way in their decision making. This
Bryan,
is,
yes.
yes.
Sorry. Can I stop you for a second, just for a question before we get too far? So I had a question, a couple metrics prior about tracking the numbers for the BDM, with the leads and the closing ratio and things like that. Do you use AppFolio for tracking this? We had the question.
I do not use AppFolio for tracking this. Well, that's a kind of a two-part answer. I do use AppFolio for part of it. I do advertising tracking in AppFolio. However, my tracking system is more robust than what AppFolio can accomplish on its own. So I go outside of AppFolio and track this independently, just because of the lead generation sources that we have. That is, I had this conversation today and with our foreign investors, from a consumer standpoint, and this is, I don't want to open Pandora's box because this could easily go there, but a lot of consumers are using Zillow. We all know that. What they see in Zillow, they are viewing as factual, when in fact it's, we were just talking about a case of another property management firm that we've done some study on, and we've seen a particular marketplace that, if anybody understands the concept of creating an anchor property, and creating an anchor property of a property that either one of their investors owns or they own, to where they can hold it out at a higher price point, focus their investment and intentional investment purchases in that particular area, and then try to draw rent prices up gradually to get to where Zillow will identify that property is now, through their estimate, is worth whatever they're asking. Okay, so it can be a tedious process sometimes, but the long answer is there's a lot of stuff that goes into to tracking. I'm more than happy. I know we have a limited amount of time today, but I'll be sure to put in the chat box before I get off today my contact information. You guys are welcome to reach out to me, and I'll be very specific with you and give you details instead of just being vague about how we track particular pieces of information and how I collectively bring all that together to track these metrics. Because like I said, I've been doing this piece of it for 8, almost 9 years now. So I understand and have enhanced those methodologies of collecting the information. So hopefully that's an answer. It's not a super good one, but hopefully it answers the question.
No, that works. Thanks, Bryan.
Was there another one as well, Jody?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. So the other question that you'll be asked on occasion is, and again, these are going to be intentional investors or institutional asking these questions. You have opportunity to deal with any of those type of clients, but total number of applications processed last month against the total number that you approved for move-in, and giving you basically between those two metrics, you can understand what is my application approval percentage. So out of 10 applicants that apply, how many of those do we approve on a monthly basis? And understanding that not only, if you're looking at a single location, that's easy to track. If you're doing multiple locations and you're trying to understand as a company how many applications you're running, how many you're approving, and some of my marketplaces, it allows me to understand that we have a criteria for applicants to obviously meet or exceed. And it allows me to understand if that is consistently being processed across my platform, or if I have one manager that's more lenient than others. And then I'm diving into the metrics of, okay, what's your delinquency? What percent of your managed inventory are you evicting? And those sorts of dynamics. So this leads to follow-up deep dives into what's really happening. But these are all great surface metrics. And again, how many moved, total numbers of applications that you processed, how many of those were approved last month, total number of new move-ins last month. You're taking all that information together and coming up with a number there. How many leases did you have expiring in the month that you're reporting? And then from that, total number of move-outs last month. So obviously, if you have a certain number of leases expiring, you had a certain number of people moving out, you can devise what's your lease renewal percentage? And that's an important number. And you're asked that question 10 out of 10 times when you're being interviewed by a client. Let's view a little bit. So, and then just as important, of those that are moving out, why are they moving out? What's going on in their life? So you can understand, are they purchasing a new home? Are they moving out of area? Are they renting an apartment? Are they moving in with family? We started to see the multi-generational living following 07, 08, when we had the foreclosure waves and people moving in multi-generationally. We saw it again in COVID in some occasions. I'm not sure if anyone else here saw that, but we certainly did. The one answer I don't accept from my managers is don't know. That means they're not asking the right questions, and their leasing staff's not asking the right questions. I'll always circle back if I have I don't know, and try to get more information. If they're renting another home, again, that's one of those problematic metrics that means that something went wrong in your relationship with that resident, their tenancy within that property. So you really need to take a deep dive into that and understand, was it your processes, your staff, the house itself, maybe the owner? There's a problem there you may need to address. All right, so the finance piece. We're going to go back to a question you're always asked, and really you should have an understanding of what this number represents. And I gave you kind of a number of highs and lows with us from 650. Our highest rental is actually at this time $48.50 a month, and my average rent is 10.26 per month right now. So my portfolio percentages are based, again, we have a high percentage of C-class, represents, last month was 47% of our total managed inventory, but our numbers ebb and flow a little bit. Certain markets have more A and B class assets, so the average rental rate's higher. But I want every branch manager to understand that number. This is a good one, and you can break this one out. You can leave it just like I've got it stated. The average maintenance cost per managed home last month. Easy report to run. If you're in a folio, you can run it by GL and select your GL. GLs that actually relate to maintenance related GLs that you expend money on and pay vendors for. And you can track that and divide it by the total number of homes you have. The other thing that you can do with this is you can break it out depending on what your GL setup is, but you can track capital expenditure. You can track turn cost to give you those dynamics and understand. Because one question you will be asked if you're interviewing with an institutional investor is what's your average turn cost? And if they're specifically focused on a C-class asset, that number is going to be higher than it is on a B or an A class. And they're going to relate to it in times rent. So if a $900 a month property and you're spending $1,500 on average on a turn, you're going to report that as 1.5 times rent. So that's the number they're looking for. And they're comparing that against other managers that they're interviewing. Percentage of increase in the rental rate from the properties being remarketed. So old rent versus new rent. Are you able to get an increase? And if you are, what's that percentage look like? Percentage of rent increase for leases renewing. Same concept. So for those that have been moving out, you've done the turn, you're remarketing, are you getting more money? And then for those that are renewing their leases, are you getting an increase there as well? Again, another great metric that you need to keep your eye on is just that active tenant delinquency at the end of the month. I think we've all been really tuned in on this since COVID, with eviction moratoriums and understanding how to manage those tenancies and their payment and those tenancies by the tenants that are delinquent or in situations where COVID's impacted them, and at least making some arrangements to work with property managers. Past tenant delinquency at the end of the month, not only what is that number, but what are you doing with that? Once you move them out, once you finish your process, you process security deposit, what are you doing with that information? Are you holding on to it internally? Are you trying to collect internally? Do you outsource that to a collection agency, to an attorney? And then the metrics that go with that of how successful are they in collecting? What percent of what you've turned over to a collection agency is actually being collected? What's the duration of time it takes them on average to collect it versus an attorney? I personally find that our attorneys are much more effective than the collection agencies. They're going to cost us some money on the front end, but we get the judgments and working from there. This metric, this last one, amount of past tenant debt collected at the end of the month. This is really for us. It's a metric we didn't track prior to, at least not officially, prior to COVID. But what we saw when we started experiencing delinquencies, which we saw the greatest increase in C-class assets, we started understanding that it was much more difficult for us to collect all the rent owed in the current calendar month, which started to lead toward the next month. And eventually, and it's improving now, but we're at our highest point. What we saw was that it was taking us on average, the current 30-day month, the next month, and the following month. By the end of the third month, we were collecting 99% of our rent that was owed to us. So that's where we started tracking that back rent category when we're reporting back to our investors. And then the one everybody loves, total number of evictions filed last month. I can say that we've always had pretty good success with this. We don't do a ton of evictions, which is a good thing. In Alabama, unfortunately, our eviction process pre-COVID in our primary counties would take anywhere from 90 to 120 days to accomplish. I'm sure somebody's cringing out there when they hear me say that number, but that's pre-COVID. And right now it's a fight to get evictions through our courts, but we're able to do a few here and there.
Bryan, can I stop you for just a sec?
Sure.
Okay, so Andrew, you might have to pop in here, but I see your question about, are your branch managers flowing these down to their teams, and what does that look like? I think you just popped this question in. So are you referring, Andrew, to these finance measurables?
All of them.
All
So
of them.
All of them.
they're flowed down to the branch managers, and how do they flow them down to their teams in practice is really my question.
What we do, Andrew, and again, I'm far from perfect, but I'm a master of creating workarounds, if nothing else, by being a property manager by default. But what we do per marketplace, and we're actually going through an experimentation and evolution, if you will, and we're evolving futuristically. I'm trying to evolve in something that's very similar to another property manager that I know that has 10 office locations and does a majority of their back office from one location. So with that being said, what we do each morning is we use Office 365 corporately. We have team meetings. We use Excel quite a bit, and we've created various spreadsheets. The most important spreadsheet for each office is actually what we consider our availability sheet. And on the availability sheet, we're managing a lot of these metrics, but we're managing it on a day-to-day operation scale. And to clarify that a little bit further, for instance, I've got each sheet by each city categorized. So at the top of the list, I have rent-ready properties that are currently being marketed. Below that, I have rent-ready properties that need to go into marketing immediately. Below that, I have properties that are in turn status, and they have a projected completion date, followed by a follow-up QC date to ensure that they're ready for marketing pictures. And then as I go down, I'm actually looking at anything I have in bidding, and then from there, notice to vacates received. From there, what's coming up in the next 90 days that needs to be worked on from a lease renewal standpoint, and where we are in that process. So we go through that every morning for 30 minutes. My market managers do the same thing. What I'm experimenting with right now is I'm trying to manage my Montgomery marketplace from my Birmingham office, pulling all the systems related stuff back in house. And the experimentation is, can I be more effective implementing my mainline systems such as leasing, turn management, not boots on the ground turn management, but the billing, the work order flows, all the maintenance associated items there, lease renewals, delinquency management, all those different things, payment management. Can I do all that more effectively and give a consistent result across multiple locations by doing it this way? That's what I'm experimenting with. And ultimately, I believe that I can. But we pour a lot of energy into our managers to disseminate this information, and I give them the information on the company level, and then share their individual numbers, because they've given those numbers to me, so they understand those. But they are, yes, passing those down to their individual teams. And I'm a company of I manage just over 1,200 single family homes. I have 22 employees, so split over 5 office locations. So my largest location, which is my corporate office in Birmingham, that's my largest concentration of employees, but mainly my outside branches have 3 to 4 people working. So it's very easy. A lot of people wear multiple hats, and we're really a hybrid model. So we're departmentalized primarily, but in the smaller offices, we're more, the structure is more property manager, assistant property manager, maintenance coordinator. So that's how I'm structured. So hope that shed some light on it. And I'm happy to share that, as I said early on, with some additional information, but I do manage that through those morning meetings. So some things that we added on due to COVID, and really, again, this was an institutional investor that came to us, and they started tracking these numbers because they've got assets all over the country, and they're trying to understand by region, by marketplace, by manager, what's kind of going on and what this generated. And we had two major markets we managed for them, which is one in Birmingham and one in OKC, about an equal number of properties. Gross potential rent in OKC was higher than Birmingham because they had some A-class assets scattered in. But this became a friendly competition. We had a weekly client call with them each week. We would prepare reporting to go out to them, and they would review this. And this was one stat that their asset manager always checked as to what percent of rent we had collected month to date. So what I found was that competing offices were competing against one another. And then as a company, we were competing against other property managers. We had no idea what their numbers were. But the asset manager will always come up at the end of the call and housekeeping notes and to say, okay, you guys are above average, or you guys are right at average, or you guys are below average, and allow us to adjust accordingly. I spoke on this a little bit earlier. This again was each passing month, tracking the percentage of rent collected, back rents collected. And again, other than just the delinquency number that we were reporting, and a lot of this was going back to NARPM was trying to track some of this stuff month in and month out, if you guys remember, just trying to understand how we were as an industry collecting rent. This was something obviously that Zelman was tracking closely. You know, a lot of their folks that use their reporting, American Homes for Rent, Amherst, all those guys are interested to see what's going on a national level. They can paint their own picture, but being able to view competitors' information through this reporting is advantageous. So you too can see kind of as an overview, you know, the beauty of this reporting is that you're looking at your individual branch, you're looking at your company, but then the end result and the end product, you're looking at a nationalized report. So you're able to see kind of highs and lows across the country and keep up with that. And this one became important. Number of unscheduled move outs and just trying to work to get people that weren't paying out of properties, and how can you apply pressure without being stepping over any lines, being you know, doing anything unethical, because certainly we're not going to do any of that. But understanding that's important. Possession of property is important, and if you can do that to help somebody out, preferably, that's the best way. If you can help the person, you know, we had some assistance. We took a nod from Michael Krause and his partner and created a rental assistance fund internally early on, and we utilized that in June, July of last year, and that account's still open. I still have people that contribute to that, and we still award those grants to some of our tenants that are having a hard time paying. And sometimes it's small, sometimes it's a little larger, sometimes we can help them out. But that's, you know, just some forward thinking and understanding that when the eviction moratorium's in place and it's hard to get people out, we had this happening. So we had to increase occupancy checks, make determinations from there, and then allow the brokers to make those decisions on whether or not we took possession, because it was never clean cut. So it's something we monitored primarily through the sheets that I was talking to Andrew about, understanding, okay, each day those notes would change in OneDrive, and we would talk about it on our calls. It's what's going on with this particular property. You know, any changes, anybody communicate with them. And it just allowed it in a discussion format instead of having to individually go into Appfolio, for instance, and look at the notes to see what was going on, to be able to have this open dialogue and discussion in a team meeting. And everybody's so used to video. I mean, it's so easy right now to adopt to some of this technologies available to us because of COVID. I mean, a lot of the stuff we were using before then. Unfortunately, as a company, we decided to take the plunge into Office 365 in March of 2020. So we had a little bit of a lag, but by June we were operating famously in it. So a lot of great technology pieces out there. This number, I used to always know that it was important, and what this number represented to me in 2009, March of 2009, in tracking the metrics on the number of move-outs and the lease renewal percentage. That number started to drop for us. And I think, Andrew, I think you were one of the ones that mentioned your survey results. And it was at that point I started to understand the importance of surveying our residents and understanding from a bigger picture how our residents felt, how they viewed us, their satisfaction with us, with our vendors, et cetera. So what I saw is we were renewing at a rate of 63% company-wide. And I wanted to increase that. I wanted to get that number up. So I intentionally went about looking at some things. And what I ultimately landed on was I hired a virtual assistant company to come in as a group effort to focus on my 3 largest offices, to take their open work orders and consolidate those open work orders, classify them, that was already done within that folio, be able to focus in on those work orders through dedicated VAs, give me a daily report on the activity and what you're updating on those work orders. But their primary task was to focus in on first the oldest work orders. And the objective was to get every work order to a point where it was only active for 30 days or less. That was the primary focus. So we started on the old ones, closed out what we could close out. And then from there, the VA started working on the vendors. If it was assigned to a vendor, we didn't have any feedback, reaching out to that vendor and understanding what the status of the work order was. If the vendor said it's completed, reaching out to the resident, and at the same time, enabling Appfolio to send their surveys out automatically to the resident. So then they feel like they're being surveyed and they have somebody following up with them for a customer service call. Understanding, was the work completed? Were you satisfied with the work? Were you satisfied with the work by the vendor that we sent out to service the problem? From there, literally to February of 2020, just before COVID struck, our lease renewals had come up from 63% to 78%. And then COVID happened. And initially our renewal numbers were skewed because everybody wanted to stay in place, so they went even higher. But we've leveled back out, and we leveled back out at 74% typically, month in and month out as an average, since that average has been there since August. And that's really where I started paying close attention to it again. So based on August reporting. So, and I still, what I did to kind of take that volume and get it done was to hire the VA company with multiple VAs, just as a per work order charge. And then I work typically with a different VA company to where I actually spend a set amount of money per month for a full-time VA. And we have 3 with them. And one particular VA, it's their entire job with our company to actually be a maintenance support staff person for all my coordinators. And that is their role. They look at every office, they keep everything with our coordinators within a 30-day window or newer for non-emergency work orders. Obviously, emergency work orders, we try to get those handled within a day, no more than 5 business days is our rule. So, and then how many work orders are you completing each and every month? So you know how many were created, so you can measure the volume, but also the success of completing those and closing those out. And invoice. That's just as important. All right, we're almost to the end. I think this is the last slide before I give you the information on zoning. This is what, as business owners, we're all most interested in. So the average fees earned by the property management firm by door. And I look at that on a year-to-date I like to look at that and understand where I'm trending within the current month compared to previous months, compared to previous years. How are my management fees, leasing fees, lease renewal fees, property intake fees, ancillary service fees? We use partners. We talked a little bit about the resident benefits package early on when we were discussing that with our vendors. Shannon had mentioned that. Creating those ancillary income streams, I kind of landed on maintenance a little bit, which, in theory as an operator, is like, that's a big scary discussion to have with potential clients, and existing clients is even worse when you're making that transition. But being able to package that in a presentation, and then not only that, but being able to understand and educate the owner as to why it's a good deal, and convince them why it's a good deal and what benefit they're getting from that. So that's a big discussion. If anybody wants to know how we did that one, reach out to me. I'm happy to help with that. That was a big decision. So, but it has reaped tremendous benefits for our company, because we were just passing stuff along for years and not experiencing the profits there. Admin fees, and these are the 6 main things that I measure internally to let me understand what my basically what my profit per door is. So this is the information everybody's looking for. If you're interested in partnering with Zelman & Associates and being part of that monthly tracking, and just in operation, what they'll do is they'll send you an email with the link embedded for the report. Typically they send it out, they ask for it, like this month's report is due Thursday, tomorrow, and it's always mid-month. So they understand the importance, the cycle of our business, that we're busy beginning and end of months. And so what I do is I'll print it off and email it out to all my branch managers and set an expectation, need this returned by such and such date. And then I'll consolidate all the information, send it back to Zelman. I'll take the finished report, I'll share it with my branch managers. And again, they'll have their individual market responses, and then they'll have the company responses on top of that, and disseminate it down to our team members. So, and what you'll be surprised to find is it does create some competitive spirit within your team members, because whether they know they're competing against or not, if nothing else, they're competing against themselves for the previous month or the same month last year. What you start to see is you get more and more month results, and year in and year out. So, but I hope that hope everyone enjoyed the information. And again, if you have any other questions, I'm going to include my email address and my cell number in here. You guys can call me anytime, shoot me an email at any time, and I'll be happy to help out. And I always like the relationships that aren't just one-time help. So you can feel free to keep coming back to me if you need to or want to, and I can probably learn some things from you as well. So, but again, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and always appreciate sharing information that I think is useful to my fellow property managers.
Thank you so much, Bryan. We really appreciate it. I think we got some good information here, and some of us may be scrounging around thinking, oh, shoot, yeah, I should be measuring that. But I think this Zelman information that you provided is good as well. And I think it'll help kind of keep everyone accountable and kind of give them a little bit of a, an outlet, a resource to be able to provide that information and whatnot. So thank you so much. We did have maybe like 2 other questions. If you have another minute, Bryan, or do you need to run?
No, I'm good. I've got about another 15 minutes before I have to be somewhere.
Okay.
Somewhere.
Okay. So we had one pop up about the VA company that you outsource to. Is that something you'd prefer someone to email you directly about, or are you okay to share that?
No, I'm happy to share. And we, so my BDM and I, if anyone's interested, we actually do a podcast together. And we've been doing it now. We're entering our third year. And the focus of the podcast is actually, we first of all wanted to be able to educate people that were becoming intentional investors. And so it's primarily focused on individuals that are starting to get into the real estate investment market. And what we realized is a lot of people will listen to Bigger Pockets and different sources, and they'll get tidbits of information. So our goal was to go deeper dive and provide them useful, unique, specific information that they can utilize. And from that, we take an opportunity to do podcast episodes with our partners, just second nature. We interviewed Andrew, one of our early ones, Shannon, when it was Filter Easy. I think that was a 5-star event in Memphis a couple of years ago. But then we'll have other property managers on. We've done a number of other property managers in different marketplaces. And then we've also done our VA company, which is Global Strategic. They are based out of North Carolina. Great guys. I've known them for a long time. And really, one wonderful thing about those guys, because I was always intimidated, I knew I needed to take a step in that direction. But David Lightfritz, a fellow Atlanta chapter member, was a property manager at the time, and he now works for that company. But he actually, at one point, very similar sized to what we were, and he had 22 employees at one point. And then when I talked to him a couple of years later, he had 11 VAs working for him and 11 employees. So I'm like, how did you do that? How did you implement those processes? So he was gracious enough to share some of their processes and allow me to take that opportunity to make those processes mine and tweak, and then instantly have a much smoother onboarding experience with the VA. So the ramp up time was very minimal. I mean, we were up and operating within 2 weeks. Didn't miss a beat really with the VA. So can't say enough good things about them. But we started with one, and we added a second, and then we're currently up to 3. I don't know. Business will dictate what else we do, but I'm always looking for creative ways to increase their role and make us a better company and the biggest pain point we always have is communication. So always trying to make that better. So.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Okay, cool. So guys, like Bryan said, he included his information here in the chat. So be sure to grab that. So thank you again, Bryan, for your wonderful content. I think we'll jump over quickly to our giveaways, and then we'll let you all get back to your day. John. Hey, John.
Hey. All right.
Hello.
We have Shannon from Second Nature. Do you have the gift card wheel spinner thingy? Oh, there we go.
Should be. All right. So what do we got? What do we got today?
We have well, Shannon, what do you have?
Yeah, so depending on who wins, we can do Amazon or we can do Starbuckles. So whoever wins, just let me know and I can send across that gift card.
All right, we're spinning here. Well, looks like Lisa. This is the winner.
All right, congratulations, Lisa.
All right, and let's do this.
Oh, there we go. Wait a minute. How many times is your name in there, Jody? I'm just kidding. Yes, her name is not on there. So Dave Sigler gets a $50 gift card to the restaurant of his choice. Congratulations, Dave.
All right, cool. Well, thank you. Thanks, John, and thanks, Shannon, for the giveaways today. Thanks, as always, for our sponsors, for sponsoring NARPM and always being there to help us out. Again, one more big thank you to Bryan for presenting today. And guys, look out for an email coming to you with this content. So we'll be recording this video, and content will be coming your way if you want to review that. So thanks again for everyone attending, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.